Hey guys, so I'm back with another process video for you, and this time I am again working on my documenting travels. What am I saying? I am working on my Rome album. So I was really in the mood to play with a lot of color. So I decided to take these two black and white photos, and I really like these photos. So they're two 4x6s, and I'm trying to decide how I want to place them. So, that green piece of paper really stuck out at me. It was, I don't know why, but I decided I was going to map my layout on that piece of paper, which meant that I'm going to play around with some green and maybe some blue watercolors. Because, as always, I kind of want to add some mixed media. So here there was already some paint on the plastic there, and it just was a really weird color. So I'm using some blue, and then I'm adding another shade of blue, and now I'm going to just smudge that on to the layout. And then I dabbed it with a piece of kitchen paper because it had some splotches, and I didn't want the blue to be so vibrant because I really want the green to be star of this layout. Do not ask me why. I don't know, but it's a different. I love green, but for some reason I don't really use it, especially as with paints. So just really enjoyed playing around with some new colors. So I'm adding the paint, and then I'm putting the photos and seeing if it needs more and so on. And then I just take a paintbrush and I'm adding some yellow just to add a bit more brightness and stuff like that, and also just to match it a bit more with my matte, because the matte is pretty bright and the colors of watercolor won't really so bright, so the yellow just made those brighter. So now I am of course gutting this paper because I want to use every last bit of it. So I'm just using my ATG to add some tape on there, and this was before I fixed it, so it's really annoying. So there went the struggle of the ATG. I cut out quite a lot of that. So I abandoned the ATG, and I'm using some big white glue. And now I'm just going to glue that down there. So yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm doing now. I'm still fidgeting with the ATG. I'm glad I managed to fix that. So then I thought I was going to do some stenciling with this stencil here, but it's too thick to use like a modeling paste or something. So this is not going to work out. So I tried to do it, but it just wasn't working. So I said, scratch that. I'm just going to spread it out, and it can peek behind the photo just a tiny bit, and it won't be the end of the world. So I'm just playing with that idea. Since I started it, I'm just adding some gesso where the photos are going to go, and it's just going to barely peek out, even if it does peek out. It just peeks out at the top and maybe the bottom there. I'm not sure, but I'm just spreading it around again and again. And it's white gesso, and my background is white, so it doesn't really matter. And then I thought I was going to use these holes as a stencil, but that didn't work either, so I'm just going to smudge that on the page as well. I don't want to cover any of the watercolor that I already did, so I'm just putting it on the outside where it's mostly going to be covered up by some photos. Then I'm adding some splatter, so I'm just dipping my paintbrush in the blue watercolor, and it wasn't splatting for some reason, so I'm just drawing on some of my own splatters there. And it's the same shade of blue and green, but the color is more concentrated, which is why it's darker. So now I'm placing my photos to see how everything looks, and Then I'm going through my scraps to find some green papers and some embellishments. So because this is a Rome album, I went through my travel themed die cuts there. Most of those are travel themed, and I don't think I used any of them, but I did pull out quite a few. Then I thought I might as well go through my Project Life cards since I'm here, so I'm just picking out a couple of 3x4s and some 4x6s to either use as a layer or a journal place to do some journaling on. And I just did that while everything was drying because I didn't want to glue down my photos when everything was still wet. So now I'm holding these cards in the air so that I don't get them all wet and painty while I'm still waiting for the page to dry. And I have seemed to no, I'm right there. So I thought that that piece of scrap paper matched the layout perfectly, but I decided I was going to punch out some hearts to use as an embellishment. So I just punched out 2, and I'm just placing them on the page where it's still not too wet. So I'm starting to make some clusters here. So I have 2 hearts up at the top and then a heart and a label at the bottom. So I have the punched hearts, and then that blue heart up there is I cut it out from a old card that we had in the house, and I really like those hearts. They're so cool. I have plenty of those cut out, so that's a tip. If you have leftover cards that you're probably never going to use, just cut it out. So now I'm thinking about where I want to add one of these cards and if I'm going to add one. And then at the bottom cluster, I also added a little label that I think says date on it, and that was from those travel die cuts that I had, and those come from Little Yellow Bicycle, and I'm not sure what package they came in or any of that, but that is a brand. I got those quite a few years ago. And then I had this travel themed chipboard watercolor pack from Me and My Big Ideas, the Mambi chips. And I just flipped through that to see if there anything popped out at me. And now I'm going through my basket of embellishments. And I decided to glue down my photos while I think some of these ideas through. So I do this, I've been doing this since the day I started scrapbooking, is whenever I'm stuck on something, I move on to something else. And when I get stuck on everything, which sometimes happens, more times than I'd like to admit, actually, it forces me. I just force myself to make a decision on one of those things, and then everything sort of falls together. So then I saw this washi tape, and it was yellow, which goes with the paints that I use. So I'm just using a little strip of it in both of my clusters. And you see I just keep going back and forth to all the embellishments, and I'm very indecisive, especially about this chipboard because it's brand new and I'm sort of hoarding it. So it was very hard for me to use one on the page. But there's a lot of greens in this set, so it worked perfectly with this layout. So I decided I'm going to glue down that little cluster because, again, I am stuck, so I'm gluing things down that I know will not go anywhere. And I'm also going to glue down those hearts with my ATG gun. So that's done, and then I wanted to add another heart to the bottom cluster, so I took that sticker in the green color and just stuck it down there, and that is from a store in Germany, Frankfurt. I think my mom bought it for me when she went last year, or was it the year before? I'm not sure. So I just stuck that there. I don't know any more details about that. And now I'm thinking that I might want to use this Explore piece as my title, and it has that gorgeous glitter green, and I just love that color, and it works with this so well. I did not end up using that piece, but I thought of it quite a bit, And then here I'm just taking some of these smaller pieces to see if I want to add anything to those two clusters. And I add that little green arrow to the bottom. I love that arrow. And then I decide I'm just going to do my journaling since I know where I want to have that. And then I can move on with embellishing. So that's just completing another aspect of the page. So I can't really see what I'm writing. I'm really sorry that I can't read that to you at the moment. So I really hope you can read that on your screen if you're interested in what I wrote. But basically, these pictures are from when we went to the Colosseum, and we could not find it for the life of us. We were using GPS on our phones. We were asking people that lived there, and it took us forever to find it. So by the time we got there, we were exhausted. So this is just a couple of photos that we took while we took a break on one of the benches at the Roman Forum. So here another aspect that I knew was going to happen was that I wanted to use these black foam thickers. I love these, and these are called Wonder, and they are old. They're from 2012, but you can never go wrong with a black foam thicker. So I just decided to spell out the word "so tired," and I'm now going to add a period at the end as well, just to add a bit more black. And I chose the black letters because it really accentuated the black and white photos. So I finished that, and now I can finally decide on a few more bits and pieces that I want to add onto the layout. So I decided I wanted to punch out one more heart to make a third cluster at the top of the page, right there, up there. And I am going to add one of these hearts. So I'm going to add the light green one this time around up in the top. And then again, I'm just flipping through all of my embellishments, and I'm going back to this Project Life card. I don't really remember what my thoughts were on those Project Life cards, but I don't end up using it, so I'm really sorry about that, guys. So I'm using another one of these awesome arrows up by the title just because I felt that there was a bit of trapped space in between the photo and the title there. And then I also added that scenic chipboard piece up at the top cluster just for a final touch. And then I decided that there was some more trap space right there on top of the journaling. So I just sort of scriptedly wrote like a Roman Forum, I think, in some large letters. And I am using a Staedtler, I think it's a pigment liner, and this is the 0.1 tip. And then I also outlined that heart at the bottom there. And now I'm gluing down my third cluster at the top of the page. And I really like how this page turned out. So, as always, I cannot have that pen in just one spot on the page. So I have to doodle some hearts in the rest of the clusters. And then I'm using some of these enamel dots. And these are from Webster's Pages. And I think they're by Alison Krefft, but I'm not sure which collection those came in. So as always, I'm writing the date which I created the layout. So our conversation starter for this video is, have you ever traveled to Rome, and how did you document it? So let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.